Chapter 53-32. What the hell? Goei Batsao saw Yun Chujio repeatedly muttering moon in the mirror, and could not help but feel a little confused. Has this stupid girl gone mad? Just when Goei Batsao was a little confused, she saw Yun Chujio sitting cross-legged and closing her eyes. Goei Batsao was even more confused now. It was just complaining, why did it make the stupid girl crazy? Why was it meditating? Hey, what's wrong with you? Are you really crazy? Goei Batsao shouted. Unfortunately, Yun Chujio didn't even lift her eyelids, let alone pay attention to it. Goei Batsao shouted a few more words, but seeing that Yun Chujio still didn't pay attention to it, it simply lay on the ground, feeling very tired. At this time, Yun Chujio opened her eyes and said calmly, Go Weiba, I understand. Emptiness is color, color is emptiness, everything is emptiness, everything is like the moon in the mirror. Batsao blinked its eyes and said, Listen, understand? Yun Chujio explained, what we see may not be true. This place may seem empty, but it doesn't mean there is nothing. It's just that we are blinded by our own eyes. Toyu Weiba said weakly, About that, I still don't understand. Just tell me how we can get out of here. Yun Chujio looked at Goei Batsao speechlessly. It made sense. No matter how scheming one was, it was still a piece of grass. Close your eyes and let your mind go blank. Don't think about anything. When you open your eyes again, you will understand what I'm saying. Yun Chujio said lightly. Goei Batsao was skeptical. It felt that Yun Chujio was most likely crazy. However, it still closed its eyes. A moment later, it opened its eyes and found that the scene in front of it had not changed at all. Yun Chujio shook her head. You have distracting thoughts. Start again. Go Weiba had no choice but to close its eyes again. After a while, when it opened its eyes again, there was still no change. Again. Goei Batsao reluctantly closed its eyes again. Goei Batsao tried more than 10 times, but there was still no effect. It was a little annoyed. I think you are talking nonsense. There is clearly nothing here except for the wall. I don't want to try anymore. If you are willing to try, you can try it yourself. Yun Chujio looked at it coldly. If it wasn't for my primordial spirit leaving my body, would I still need a waste like you? If you want to be trapped here, you can go back on your words. Goei Batsao saw that Yun Chujio's tone was unprecedentedly serious, and it immediately cowered. It said embarrassedly, I'm just saying. I still have to try. Yun Chujio did not expose it. Instead, she said, You must have no distracting thoughts. You even have to forget that you are a grass and integrate yourself into this world. Goei Batsao felt that these words were somewhat familiar. Previously, when it taught Yun Chujio to use her spiritual sense to attack, it seemed to say something similar to these words. This fellow immediately became enlightened. He immediately sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes. A moment later, Goei Batsao opened its eyes. Its eyes were pure and ethereal, and there was a faint ancient aura lingering around its body. Yun Chujio could not help but have a thought. What was the origin of this Goei Batsao? Just as she was thinking about it, she heard the Goei Batsao shouting, What the hell? What the hell? Why are we still on the first floor? Didn't we reach the third floor? I don't want to be cut into 1,000 pieces. If I knew this would happen, I would rather stay on the third floor. Yun Chujio looked speechlessly at the jumping Goei Batsao and immediately forgot about her previous thoughts. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 53-33 Origin of Buddhist Light. Goei Batsao hopped around for a while and only calmed down when it realized that there was no golden light attacking it. The fellow looked around suspiciously and realized that although there was no change to the Buddha statue, the surrounding walls of the pagoda were made of glass and were transparent. It could even see the flowers, plants, and trees outside, and even the eyelashes of the disciples of the bitter Zen sect guarding the pagoda. This guy rushed to the front of the glazed wall and kept slapping the wall of the glazed pagoda. He shouted and gestured toward the outside, but the guards outside didn't respond at all. Stop messing around. What the people outside see is nothing more than an ordinary pagoda, Yun Chujio said lightly. Goei Batsao felt that its brain was not enough. With the principle of asking shamelessly, it asked flatteringly, "Little fairy, what on earth is going on?" "Everything I see is an illusion," Yun Chujio said calmly. "Goei Batsao, are you bullying me because I'm uncultured? What nonsense are you talking about?" "Forget it, it's just like an illusion formation. What's the point of being arrogant? Even if we can see the actual scene now, how are we going to get out?" Goei Batsao asked snappily. Yun Chujio pointed at the little finger on the right hand of the Buddha statue. "Just like before, press that lotus petal and we can leave this place." Goei Batsao wanted to press the lotus petal immediately, but Yun Chujio stopped her. "Wait, I suddenly thought of something." Goei Batsao rolled her eyes. "What is more important than getting out?" Yun Chujio curled the corner of her mouth. "Don't you think that this glazed wall should have other uses? It just looks better. What other uses can it have?" Goei Batsao said disdainfully. It felt that Yun Chujio's mind was constantly changing. What other uses could this broken glass have? Yun Chujio said with a faint smile, "A flower in the mirror, a moon in the water." Goei Batsao was even more dumbfounded. It felt that ever since this wretched girl had taken on the persona of the lonely little monk, she had not been speaking in human language because it could not understand. Yun Chujio continued, "Tomorrow morning, there will be a magnificent scene of the Buddhist light of the Sea of Clouds. Tell me, if this face of mine appears above the Sea of Clouds, wouldn't it be very interesting?" Goei Batsao, "Interesting? Are you crazy?" The Buddha's light in the Sea of Clouds was a magnificent scene of Buddhism. It must be a Buddha statue. How could it be her face? Yun Chujio was too lazy to explain to Goei Batsao about the diffraction and diffuse reflection of light and the principle of mirage. The only problem she had to solve now was how to turn the Buddha statue's face into her own. This guy soon discovered that when the sun shone in, the image of the Buddha statue would appear on one of the walls of the tower. This guy began to try all kinds of angles. Finally, he found a specific angle that could cover his face on the Buddha statue's face. Goei Batsao was dumbfounded, but he was still skeptical that this thing could appear in the Sea of Clouds. However, it still cooperated with Yun Chujio to complete the scene in the morning. As for why the golden Buddhist light turned into the seven-colored Buddhist light, cough, Goei Batsao had slapped the glazed wall many times before, and there were many dirty handprints on it. By accident, the seven-colored Buddhist light appeared. Yun Chujio estimated that it was almost time, so she let Goei Batsao press the lotus petal of the Buddha statue, and then the man and the grass appeared on the top of the tower. Fortunately, there was a huge bead on the top of the tower. Sitting on it would not prick one's butt. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 53-34 Soul Strengthening Spring. Yun Chujio immediately understood the purpose of this bead. It should also be used to reflect the sun's rays. This pagoda was indeed very exquisite. When the guards saw Goei Batsao, they quickly went to report it. Yun Chujio took the opportunity to teach Goei Batsao the explanation she had given earlier. Goei Batsao recalled what had just happened and could not help but feel a little smug. Its acting skills were getting better and better. Even it had to admire itself. At this time, everyone had already arrived at the soul consolidation spring. Although they were only at the side of the soul consolidation spring, everyone felt refreshed. It seemed that this soul consolidation spring lived up to its reputation. Goei Batsao followed what Yun Chujio had taught it and said indifferently, "Amitba. You can directly put this penniless monk into the soul consolidation spring. 3 days later, this penniless monk will definitely hand over Master Wang Zu's relic." A trace of killing intent flashed in Xianji's eyes. That loan had not calculated anything. Although the soul-strengthening spring was just a spring, the pool was very deep. This loan had already lost his cultivation. He might be drowned inside. The monks carrying Yun Chujio were all Xianji's confidants. When they saw his eyes, they immediately understood what he meant. They deliberately placed the little lone monk in the deepest part of the pool and removed the wooden board. Lonely Monk's body quickly sank and soon disappeared. Master Liaowu was about to go in to save him when Xianji sneered, "Master Liaowu, don't worry. Since lonely is the reincarnation of a Buddha, and he has to go through the water calamity, it's better for others not to interfere. Master Liaowu was about to refute, but he was frightened by Yin Chang's fierce gaze and didn't dare to speak. Yin Chang naturally would not allow Master Liaowu to go in and save him. He wanted to see if this lone was a real or fake Buddha. Anyway, the vicinity of the soul-strengthening spring was conducive to cultivation. Therefore, Yin Chang and the other two directly meditated on the spot, actually wanting to stay and watch. Master Liaowu's heart instantly turned cold. He could only pray in his heart that Yun Chujio would be safe and sound. At this time, Gowei Batzao had already sunk to the bottom of the water. This fellow kept moving his stiff arms and legs. In any case, he was at the bottom of the water and the people on top couldn't see him. As for the possibility of drowning, it didn't exist at all. Although the water-repellent bead was in the storage ring and couldn't be taken out, Gowei Bakao's water nature was quite good. Even if it possessed Yun Chujio's body, it could still stay in the water for a while. It was almost done with its activities before it resurfaced. Its feet stepped on the water, exposing its upper body above the water. Moreover, it kept its palms together. When it was tired, it would dive into the water again. As for Hei Xinjiu, who was floating, she was not afraid of the water. She swam around the pool, and when she saw the spring, her heart moved slightly. The diameter of the spring was very large, enough for one person to pass through. She blinked her eyes. If there were no people from the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall here, she could always use the identity of the lonely little Buddha to save all living beings. But now that Yin Chang and the other two had seen her, after returning to the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall, perhaps the people from the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall would have other thoughts and harm her. She wasn't afraid of anything else. The main reason was that she was afraid of being exposed. Therefore, it was best for her to achieve her goal and die in front of Yin Chang and the other two. That way, there wouldn't be any future troubles. This fellow looked at the spring and instantly had a good idea of escaping death. However, he still needed to come up with more plans. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 53-35 Return of the Primordial Spirit. As time passed, Yun Chujio realized that the distance between her and Gowei Batzao was getting closer and closer. She knew that she would be able to return to her primordial spirit very soon. Gowei Batzao also realized this. If it weren't for the fact that it was afraid of being exposed, this fellow would have wanted to cry out loud. It was too fucking difficult. These days were simply not grass-like days. Although it could eat an unlimited amount of herbs at the beginning and read the script happily, but since it became a lonely little monk, it was worse than death. After 2 days and 2 nights, Yun Chujio's primordial spirit finally entered her body. She mentioned 3 days and 3 nights previously, firstly to stabilize her primordial spirit so that there would be no side effects, and secondly to stall for time to think of a way to escape death. Although Yun Chujio's primordial spirit had returned to her body, she didn't activate the string of Buddha beads that were used to disguise her Buddhist power. Moreover, she concealed her cultivation, so the people on the shore couldn't see any flaws. After she activated the water-repellent bead, she dived into the water again. The people on the shore were already used to it. She dived into the water from time to time, so no one doubted her. After Yun Chujio reached the bottom of the water, she released the Gowei Batzao and deliberately made the Gowei Batzao appear in its smallest form so that no one would notice her. Gowei Batzao, go along the spring and see where the spring leads to, Yun Chujio reminded. Gowei Batzao immediately entered the spring. It happily waved its leaves and felt that it was more comfortable to make grass. Gowei Batzao soon returned, but it and Yun Chujio soon discovered a problem. One person and one grass could not communicate. Fortunately, Yun Chujio had the water-repellent bead. After isolating the spring water, she took out a brush, ink, paper, and inkstone, and let Gowei Batzao draw what it saw. Yun Chujio saw what Gowei Batzao drew, and her eyes immediately lit up. She was right. The bottom of the soul-strengthening spring led to the underground river. Although Gowei Batzao did not explore the final exit of the underground river, the nearest river near the Bitter Zen sect was the Jade Belt River, which was 300 li away. The exit must be there. The Jade Belt River had already left the territory of the Zen of Bitterness. She would be able to escape smoothly then. This fellow checked her body and primordial spirit's condition again. Seeing that there was nothing abnormal, she activated the Buddha bead. The people on the bank had been observing little monk Lonely's condition. Now that she had recovered her cultivation, they could not help but exclaim in surprise. Yin Chang and the other two also looked at the little monk Lonesome. When they saw that she was only at the 9th stage of the Yellow Buddha Lotus realm, they couldn't help but show disdain in their eyes. Wasn't this so-called Buddha's cultivation too low? In order to show off, Yun Chujio activated the water repellent bead. Then she sat cross-legged on the surface of the water, causing the crowd to exclaim in surprise. Yun Chujio slowly opened her eyes. A relic glowing with a lustrous glow appeared in her right palm. Yin Chang and the other two narrowed their eyes. They could naturally tell that this relic was unusual. It was definitely a relic that only eminent monks could have, and it was very old. It seemed that this lone was really a Buddha. Otherwise, how could he have such a relic? Yun Chujio waved at Xian Hui. Xian Hui, this penniless monk's 3 tribulations have not been completed yet, so I can't leave the soul consolidation spring for the time being. Come and take the relic away, and then go search for those women. Amitba. It's a sin for Buddhism to have a scum like Xian Ji. Xian Hui didn't have any objection to Yun Chujio's act of summoning a puppy. She went into the pool and took the saraira. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 5336. Killing Lone. Xian Hui understood in his heart that with this relic and the evidence of Xian Ji using the furnace and cauldron to cultivate, this sect master would be his. Therefore, he now found little monk Lone particularly pleasing to the eye. As for his dead disciple Yuan Guang, since he had committed suicide, he could not be blamed for Lone's death. He was a reasonable and accomplished monk, so naturally he would not vent his anger on others. Xian Hui held the saraira and walked out of the soul-strengthening spring. With a fake smile, she said to Xian Ji, "Senior brother, now that little Buddha Lone has handed over the saraira, junior brother can only send people to search it. Anyway, senior brother, you said that there are no dirty matters, so you shouldn't be afraid of me bringing people to search it, right?" Xian Ji's face was livid, and the veins on his forehead were popping out. If it weren't for the presence of other people, he would have rushed forward and slapped Xian Hui to death. The moment Yun Chujio took out the relic, he knew that things were going to be bad. The only way to break out of this predicament was to kill Lone. As long as Lone died, he could argue that Lone was a demon and that everything he said was nonsense. In any case, the dead would not refute him. As for Xian Hui, he was a brainless person. He could easily deal with him with a few tricks. When Xian Ji thought of this, he suddenly raised his hand and a huge red Buddha lotus appeared in front of everyone. The red petals turned into sharp arrows and shot towards Lone, who was floating on the surface of the water. As Xian Ji's attack was too sudden, Master Liaowu and the others did not have the time to stop him. Even Yin Chang and the other two didn't expect Xian Ji to make a sudden move. If they joined hands, they could protect Lonely Monk, but they didn't plan to do so. They didn't want to confirm the identity of Lonely Buddha. It would be good if Xian Ji killed him. Yun Chujio's eyes lit up when she saw Xian Ji making a move. Very good, Xian Ji didn't disappoint her and used his attack to escape. With a scream, Lonely Little Monk sank to the bottom of the water, and the surface of the water quickly turned red. At this time, Master Liaowu, the Lan family's ancestor, and Xian Hui had already joined hands to attack Xian Ji. After using the red lotus to protect himself, Xian Ji retreated to the vicinity of Yin Chang and the other two. Master Liaowu and the other two didn't dare to attack him, so they could only stop. Master Liaowu was so angry that he was trembling. "Why do you want to harm Lone?" Xian Ji snorted coldly. Lone is obviously a demon, yet he deliberately played tricks to sow discord. He deserves to die. Moreover, if he really was a Buddha, how could he die so easily? So, what he used before was just a camouflage. Xian Hui stretched his neck and roared, "Then how do you explain Master Liaowu's relic? Could it also be a camouflage?" Master Wang Zu's whereabouts were unknown at that time. Perhaps he was killed by the demon race. That's why that Lone had Master Wang Zu's relic. This just proves that he is from the demon race, Xianji sneered. Xian Hui was not as good at arguing as Xianji, so she did not know how to refute him. Xianji's eyes flashed with pride. He could see that Yin Chang and the other two did not want to confirm Lone's identity as a Buddha. With the three of them making the decision, Xian Hui would not be able to make any waves. Hence, he said, Masters, the three of you have seen what happened. I have already killed Lone. He is not a Buddha but a demon with ulterior motives. Otherwise, he would not have been killed so easily by me. Yin Chang and the other two looked at each other. Yin Chang was about to agree with Xianji when he heard the crowd exclaiming. He looked up and saw several lotus flowers blooming on the surface of the water. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 53-37 continued. Everyone could not believe their eyes. They rubbed their eyes and realized that it was real. Those were the legendary Buddhist lotuses that were lost. And there were 9 of them. Just as everyone was in shock, an ethereal voice sounded. The son of Buddha has returned. Xianji deserves to be killed. If Xianji is not eliminated, he will bring chaos to the world. Everyone waited for a moment, but the voice did not sound again. The Buddhist lotuses disappeared in front of everyone in an instant, leaving only the fragrance of the Buddhist lotuses lingering around. Xian Hui was the first to react. Amitabha, no wonder the lotus flowers appeared. It turns out that the son of Buddha has returned. Xianji, you actually slandered the son of Buddha as a devil and even killed him. You deserve to die. Xianji's legs were a little weak. Even though he initially did not believe it, the scene just now really made him have no choice but to believe it. Could it be that Lone was really the son of Buddha? If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have provoked him. It was really too late to regret. Yin Chang and the other two obviously believed more than half of it. Putting everything else aside, this lotus was genuine. If Lone wasn't the son of Buddha, where did he get the lotus? However, to be on the safe side, Yin Chang gave Yin Zhao a look. Yin Zhao immediately understood and jumped into the pool. Soon, he reached the surface of the water and said, "There's nothing inside." This time, everyone was even more convinced that Lonely Monk was a Buddha child. After all, if he was an ordinary person, there would be a corpse if he died. Seeing that Yin Chang and the other two's attitude had changed, Xian Hui immediately felt reassured. He said to everyone, "Everyone, please help me take down Xianji so that he won't cause trouble for the common people." Master Liaowu and the old ancestor of the Lan family took the lead. Damn it, they had long disliked Xianji. The others also stepped forward to help. As the saying goes, when a wall falls, everyone pushes it down. Since Xianji's power was gone, they had nothing to worry about. Moreover, they were also present when Xianji killed Lonely Little Buddha. If they didn't do anything, what would they do if Buddha blamed them? Thus, everyone swarmed forward and quickly took Xianji down. At the same time, Xian Hui sent people to find a secret room under Xianji's meditation room. Many women were rescued from there, and some of them were even girls from the side branches of the 4 great aristocratic families. This time, everyone was even angrier. This Xianji was simply a human with a beast's heart. He said Amitabha, but in reality he was doing something worse than a beast. He really deserved to be cut into 1,000 pieces. After Xian Hui asked Yin Chang and the other two for instructions, he directly killed Xianji. Although he also wanted to learn some secrets from Xianji, he knew that his brain was not as good as Xianji's. If it was too late, the gains would not make up for the losses. Yin Chang and the other two had mixed feelings. They originally thought that it would be fine if they went to the Bitter Zen sect and killed the person who activated the array formation. Who would have thought that they would actually cause so much trouble? Especially that Lone. Was he really the son of Buddha? However, it didn't matter whether he was the son of Buddha or not. He was already dead. Even though Xian Hui fawningly urged the other two to stay for a few more days, Yin Chang and the other two still left the Bitter Zen sect. Everyone also took their leave. Xian Hui had just taken over as the sect master, so he was not in the mood to carry out his original plan. His priority now was to eliminate the remaining followers of Xianji. Therefore, after exchanging a few polite words, he sent everyone off. Master Liaowu and the ancestor of the Lan family were both extremely curious. Where did that troublemaker go? At this time, the troublemaker that they had been thinking about had already returned to the Zen sect. Of course, she had already changed back into female clothes. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 5338 Dealing with the aftermath. The reason why this fellow returned to the Zen sect was that she should have been in the Zen sect as well. After all, the Zen sect had brought her here from the Lan family. Secondly, she had to prepare for a rainy day and deal with some trouble. Many people in the Zen sect knew that she had pretended to be lonely. After Yin Chang and the other two returned, it was very likely that the 10,000 Buddha temple would send people to investigate again. Therefore, she had to make a move in advance and let Meng Yanshou erase the memory of her real identity for those who knew about it. Fortunately, only some elders and true disciples in the Zen sect knew about her identity. Otherwise, Meng Yanshou wouldn't have been able to complete it even if he was exhausted to death. When Master Liaowu returned to the Zen sect and saw the lively He Xinjiu, his nose suddenly felt sour. Although he guessed that this troublemaker had already escaped, he didn't see that she was still uneasy. He Xinjiu giggled. Master, I have something to discuss with you. Can I talk to you in private? Master Liaowu glared at her, but he still brought her to his meditation room. Yun Chujio told him her thoughts and didn't hide it. She let out the Meng Yanshou. Master Liaowu looked at the rabbit in front of him and his heart thumped. This thing was the legendary Meng Yanshou. What kind of joke was this? Meng Yanshou saw his suspicious gaze and directly slapped himself to death. Then he revealed his true form. Master Liaowu was shocked. He finally believed it. He thought to himself, this little girl not only has Buddha Lotus, but also Master Meng Yanshou's relic. She actually has a nightmare beast? How did she get it? Master, do you believe me now? Just in case I'm lonely. Other than you, there's no need for anyone else to know. Otherwise, the people of the 10,000 Buddhas sacred hall will find out. In addition, there's no need for the 1,000 Buddhas cave to exist anymore. Let's use some small means to make it collapse. In this way, the 10,000 Buddhas sacred hall won't be able to find anything even if they come to investigate. As for the reason, it is already there. Since the lonely little Buddha has already returned to his position, then the collapse of the 1,000 Buddhas cave is also a matter of course, Yun Chujio said. Master Liaowu couldn't help but nod his head. He felt rather regretful in his heart. If only this little girl was a man. He would take her in as his disciple no matter what. Unfortunately, fate played tricks on him. This was a little girl. Even if he called her master, he wouldn't be able to take her in. After the two of them discussed the details, they found a reason for Master Liaowu to hold a banquet. Everyone present was in the know. After 3 rounds of wine and 5 different dishes, apart from Yun Chujio and Master Liaowu, everyone else was knocked out. The nightmare beast began to weave dreams for everyone. It fabricated the life of the lonely little monk, who had been bowing to Buddha in the 1,000 Buddha cave since he was young. Then, it eliminated the matter of Yun Chujio pretending to be lonely. If it weren't for the fact that these people were in a coma, Meng Yanshou wouldn't have been able to complete it even if it was exhausted to death. Even so, Meng Yanshou was so tired that he couldn't even finish his words. Little fairy, I am going to hibernate. I have a new script. Remember to give it to me. Keep it for me, Yun Chujio. Master Liaowu, Yun Chujio judged that the 10,000 Buddhas sacred hall would send people to investigate soon. It was not suitable for her to stay in the Zen sect anymore. Therefore, the next day, she returned to the Lan family under the escort of a Master Lei and others. After the ancestor of the Lan family called her over, he went straight to the point and asked, "Is that loneliness you are pretending to be?" Yun Chujio smiled lightly and said, "Ancestor, little Buddha loneliness has already returned to his position. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Why do you insist on staying here? Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much." Chapter 5339. turning leaves into grass. When the Lan family's ancestor heard her words, he immediately understood that she was admitting the fact that she was lonely in disguise. He sighed. Although little monk Lonely has already returned to his position, there will be traces as long as he existed. The people of the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall will probably send people to the Zen sect to investigate. If the matter is leaked, the consequences will be unimaginable. Ancestor, what are you saying? That little monk Lonesome was originally the disciple of Master Liao. Since he was young, he has been paying respects to the Buddha at the Thousand Buddhas cave. There is nothing to be leaked, Yun Chujio said with a smile. The eyes of the Lan family's ancestor flashed, and his heart moved. Could it be that this troublemaker and the Zen sect had already prepared the aftermath? However, it was also true. This troublemaker had always been smart, so it was impossible for him not to have thought of this problem. Thinking of this, the worries of the Lan family's old ancestor dissipated a lot, and he said, "You go back and rest first." After Yun Chujio said goodbye, she returned to her own courtyard. The moment she entered the house, she saw a house full of herbs. She immediately thought of the days when Goei Batsao was so arrogant, and she was so angry that she scolded Goei Batsao a few hundred times. Goei Batsao in her dantian hung its leaves aggrievedly. Sigh, the river flows east for 30 years, and the river flows west for 30 years. Now, Goei Batsao could only use its leaves to make grass. Yun Chujio put the medicinal herbs into her storage ring and let Hong Ling and the other two in to clean up. Hong Ling and the other two saw that their miss had finally returned to normal. They were about to cry. It was not that they did not want to come in to clean up, but when the miss left previously, she fiercely warned them not to touch those medicinal herbs. How would they dare to come in? Taking advantage of the time when Hong Ling and the other two were cleaning the house, Yun Chujio arrived at the courtyard where Ling Yun and the others were. When Ling Yun saw Yun Chujio, he could not help but cover his storage ring tightly. He and his brothers' wives had all been plundered by her, so what were they doing here? Could it be that they wanted to sell them all? When Yun Chujio saw the wary gazes of Ling Yun and the others, she was so angry that she scolded Goei Batsao again. Yun Chujio comforted everyone for a while. Not only did she return the spirit stones that she owed them, but she also rewarded everyone with a lot of upper-grade spirit stones after giving them their monthly salary. Finally, she managed to pull them back. After Yun Chujio comforted everyone, she called Ling Yun to the side and whispered some things to him. Ling Yun's mouth was wide open, and his eyes were wide open. What was his miss trying to do? She was going to turn the sky upside down. However, she was the master and he was the servant. He could only follow orders. After Yun Chujio finished instructing Ling Yun, she strolled around the street and happily returned to the third branch of the Lan family. As soon as she entered the door, she saw Lan Luofeng. Lan Luofeng saw her turn around and ran away. What a joke! If she didn't run away, she would have to force her to buy herbs again. Yun Chujio was speechless and could only shout, "Sister Lu, I'm not buying herbs anymore. I'll return the money I owe you." Lan Luofeng was skeptical. After receiving the spirit stones from Yun Chujio, she was sure that little Jiao was not crazy anymore. After Yun Chujio and Goei Batsao were dealt with, she returned to her own courtyard. She sorted out the recent events. Sigh, there were really a lot of troublesome things. Firstly, because of the existence of the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall, she was temporarily unable to save her parents. Second, although she was struck by lightning last time, her cultivation did not increase at all. Instead, she was struck until her primordial spirit was separated from her body. The most important thing now was to think of a way to be struck by lightning. Otherwise, she would never be able to break through. Third, the Divine Devil Hall was always a hidden danger. She had to think of a way to help the pretty boy deal with them. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 5340 The Secret of Mount Meru. Yun Chujio thought about the things that she had arranged for Ling Yun and the others to do, and her mood became a little better. If things went smoothly, the Divine Devil Hall of the Chongshao continent would not be able to stir up much trouble in the future. The most important thing now was to be struck by lightning. Only by improving her cultivation base quickly could she have the chance to go to the divine enlightenment continent and get rid of the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall. A few days later, Master Liaowu sent a message to Yun Chujio. Sure enough, the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall had sent people to the Zen sect. However, they didn't find anything wrong and left very soon. Yun Chujio let out a sigh of relief. Now was not the time to confront the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall directly. It was better not to provoke them. Yun Chujio had been hoping that Mount Meru would send down heavenly lightning again. However, as time passed day by day and there was still no heavenly lightning, Yun Chujio couldn't help but feel a little anxious. This was not the way to go on. It was better to find out the reason why Mount Meru was struck. Only then would she be able to take the initiative. Thinking of this, Yun Chujio greeted the Lan family's ancestor before leaving the imperial city and heading straight for Mount Meru. This fellow soon arrived at Mount Meru. Unfortunately, he did not find anything unusual after searching the entire area. This fellow could not help but feel a little discouraged. Therefore, she turned her grief and anger into her appetite. She hunted a snowstorm deer and began to roast the meat. Seeing that there was no one else around, she let out all the silly cuties and ate the roast meat together. Goei Butzao saw that Buttface had been flattering Yun Chujio and immediately became anxious. She kept trying to act cute. Yun Chujio recalled that Goei Bukao's performance in the Bitter Zen sect was not bad, so she released this fellow out of kindness. As soon as the Goei Butzao was released, she immediately pulled Buttface aside with the grass leaves and squeezed him in front of Yun Chujio. Buttface was so angry. He couldn't live like this anymore. Xiao Hanyo was in front of him, and Buddha's candle was behind him. Now that another Goei Butzao had jumped out, its position as the #1 spiritual pet was in danger. No, it had to make a contribution, or else the position of #1 spiritual pet would be handed over to them. However, it was just a useless snack now. What contribution could it make? Oh, if it could find the reason why Mount Meru was struck by lightning, it would definitely be a great contribution. Mount Meru must have something that was cursed by the heavens. Otherwise, the heavenly lightning wouldn't strike once a month. However, where was that thing hidden? Standing at a high vantage point, Dog 2 couldn't care less about eating roasted meat. It climbed to the highest peak of Mount Meru with a huff. This fellow looked around and looked around. His dog eyes widened. His position as the #1 spiritual pet had been saved. He immediately used his spiritual sense to say excitedly to Yun Chujio, "Little fairy, come over quickly. I've discovered the secret of Mount Meru." Soon, Yun Chujio came over with the jumping Goei Butzao beside her. Buttface looked at Goei Butzao with a smug look. "Little fellow, you want to compete with Buttface for the pet? Dream on." "What secret?" Yun Chujio asked impatiently. Buttface pointed to the distance with his paw. "Little fairy, look over there. Don't you find it familiar?" Yun Chujio looked in the direction that Goei Butzao was pointing at. As she looked at it, her heart stirred. She hurriedly took out a piece of paper from her pocket. On the paper was a map. It was the pattern on the bluestone slabs that she had picked up from the Lianxing mountain range. And the map was exactly the same as the terrain in the distance. Yun Chujio's gaze fell on the conspicuous mark on the map. Could it be that the secret of Mount Meru was hidden there? Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 5341 was so angry that its leaves were curled up. Yun Chujio immediately brought Buttface to the place marked on the map. Buttface bared its teeth at Goei Butzao provocatively. "Little fellow, how could a dumb scheming grass fight with it? It was asking for a beating." Putting everything else aside, the name showed who was superior and who was inferior. It was Buttface, and Goei Butzao was just a part of it. And it was the most useless tale. Goei Butzao felt the disdain from Goei Butzao, and when it wasn't paying attention, it directly tripped it and made Goei Butzao eat mud. Goei Butzao was so angry that it shouted, "Little fairy, Goei Butzao bullied me. You have to make a decision for me." Yun Chujio was in a hurry to find the place marked on the map, so she directly glared at Goei Butzao. "If you continue to cause trouble, I won't let you out in the future." Goebatsao was instantly thrown into chaos. What did it do wrong? Didn't it just trip Buttface? This smelly girl treated it like this? It really made its heart chill. It was the grass that had accompanied her for the longest time. Its status was several times higher than that of Buttface, so why couldn't she see its good? The more Goebatsao thought about it, the sadder it became. The more it thought about it, the sadder it became. It simply laid on the ground and didn't leave. Yun Chujio was in a hurry to find the place marked on the map, so she did not pay attention to Goebatsao. As for Buttface, he was eager for Goebatsao to get lost, so he did not say anything. Goebatsao saw that Yun Chujio and Buttface were getting further and further away. It was so angry that its leaves were curled up. It decided that it would never come out again. Even if that stupid girl was in danger, it would not care. It was just a vessel for it. It had nothing to do with its life or death. Just as Goebatsao was thinking about it, it heard Yun Chujio shouting from afar, "Goebatsao, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and get over here." Goebatsao immediately jumped up and ran over happily. It had completely forgotten what it was thinking just now. This fellow was trying to find a way out for itself. Although it had nothing to do with the life and death of this wretched girl, it had a large amount of grass for Xiao Moga's sake, so it forgave her this time. As for that Buttface, it's not too late for Goebatsao to take revenge. Let's wait and see. Yun Chujio ignored the jealousy between Buttface and Goebatsao. Her gaze fell on a cliff in front of her. This cliff was where the marked mark on the map was. Could it be that there was something that could attract heavenly lightning? Hey, is there anyone inside? I'm here to save you. Yun Chujio stretched her neck and shouted a few times, but other than her echo, there was no other movement. She rolled her eyes, raised her hand, and several bolts of lightning struck the stone wall. However, there was still no reaction. Yun Chujio originally wanted to use the talisman to blow up the stone wall, but then she remembered that Mount Meru not only prohibited flying, but also couldn't use the talisman. This fellow had no choice but to pick up the large kitchen knife and start hacking. After this fellow hacked for a while, Buttface pointed to the sky and said, "Little fairy, congratulations, you're going to be struck by lightning." Yun Chujio looked up and saw that Wu Yun had started to gather. Wu Yun narrowed her eyes. It seemed that the thing hidden behind the stone wall was not a trivial matter. Otherwise, Wu Yun would not have come as soon as she started to strike. It seemed that she had found a good way to be struck by lightning. It was really something to celebrate. Yun Chujio looked at the Wu Yun in the sky and narrowed her eyes again. Very good. It was the Wu Yun that had struck her Yuan Shin out of her body last time. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 5342 was in big trouble. Wu Yun in the sky was also feeling very complicated. Last time, she thought that she had killed the scourge, but she did not expect that not only was she not dead, but she even found this place. It was simply courting death. The secret of this place must not be exposed to the public, so she was in big trouble. Even if it could not kill her, the dark clouds that followed would also kill Wu Yun. Yun Chujio inexplicably felt Wu Yun's gloating and her heart tightened. She felt that it was not appropriate for her to stay here for long. Therefore, she put Buttface into the spirit beast bag and ran away. As this guy ran, he felt that he seemed to have forgotten something. Forget it, it should be something not too important. Goebatsao that was left behind. Have you forgotten your little cutie? This wasn't all Yun Chujio's fault. After all, Goebatsao was only recently exposed. She wasn't used to having such a thing by her side. Moreover, Goebatsao was only formed from spiritual power. It wouldn't affect anything even if it dissipated. All she had to do was release it again. But Goebatsao didn't think so. This fellow felt that even though it was now a small treasury, the wretched girl didn't care about its life and death. It was simply an ingrate's act of madness. It was too chilling. This fellow thought for a moment, but still waved its leaf and chased after it. It wasn't helping it, but wanted to see the little girl's bad luck with its own eyes. It had already sensed that the little girl was about to face a great disaster. Now, let's see if Dog 2 was still showing off. Pooey! It was just a fierce beast, yet it still dared to show off in front of it. It really didn't know whether it was dead or alive. Wu Yun in the sky saw that Yun Chujio actually wanted to escape, so she naturally wouldn't just stand by and watch. She began to hack at Yun Chujio, wanting to delay time and wait for reinforcements to arrive. Seeing Wu Yun like this, Yun Chujio was even more convinced that there was a conspiracy. She had to leave Mount Meru's no-fly zone before Wu Yun's main army arrived. Otherwise, her little life would be finished today. However, the stone wall from before was in the deepest part of Mount Meru. The path was very difficult to traverse. Even if she used all her strength, she still did not dare to leave Mount Meru before Wu Yun's reinforcements arrived. At this moment, everything within a radius of 1,000 li fell into darkness. Under the immense pressure, all of Mount Meru's demonic beasts exploded and died. Not a single one survived. In the Imperial City, those with weaker cultivation bases were forced to spit out blood under the pressure. Even the Lan family's patriarch felt his chest tighten and he could not breathe. His heart sank. That troublemaker had gone to Mount Meru. Could it be that he had stirred up some great disaster? Just the gathering of Wu Yun was already so powerful. Once the heavenly lightning struck, how could he survive? The Lan family's ancestor sighed and couldn't care about anything else. He immediately ordered all the people in the Imperial City to leave with him to avoid this disaster. The other nearby cities were the same. They quickly fled on flying spirit tools, afraid that they would die if they were even half a step late. Goei Batsao had already caught up to Yun Chujio. Seeing this terrifying scene, although it wasn't afraid, it couldn't help but worry for Yun Chujio. It's over. This time, the smelly girl was going to die. Buttface, who was in the spirit beast bag, was so regretful that its intestines turned green. If it knew this would happen, it would rather not make a contribution. If the little girl died, they definitely wouldn't be able to live. Yun Chujio didn't stop. She continued to run as fast as she could. When she saw the demonic beasts that exploded and died, her heart was filled with guilt and anger. Why did this damn Wu Yun decide the life and death of these demonic beasts? Why? Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 53-43. Insignificant Goei Batsao sensed Yun Chujio's thoughts. It waved its leaves and dashed forward with all its might while cursing in its heart. What an idiot! But because Wu Yun was the will of Tian Dao. Not to mention the demon beasts, even killing all the living beings on the 3,000 continents would be a piece of cake for Tian Dao. The things that Tian Dao wanted to kill had no value. Thinking of this, Goei Batsao glanced at Hi Shinjio, who was running desperately. Cough cough, of course, there were also accidents. For example, this smelly girl. Tian Dao had killed her many times, but he still couldn't kill her. Just as Goei Batsao was thinking, Yun Chujio suddenly turned around and ran back. Goei Batsao was completely dumbfounded. Was this smelly girl's brain damaged? Why did she still run back? She could only use the flying spiritual weapon outside the no-fly zone. Wouldn't she be courting death by running back? Of course, Yun Chujio's brain wasn't damaged. She had already realized that no matter how fast she ran, she wouldn't be able to leave the no-fly zone in a short period of time. This time, Wu Yun was coming at her aggressively. She was afraid that she wouldn't be able to hold on for long. Therefore, it was basically an extravagant hope for her to leave the no-fly zone. Since that was the case, she might as well go back to the bottom of the cliff. Since it was fine to be struck by lightning month after month, it meant that the cliff must be very resistant to lightning. Perhaps she could find a chance to survive there. At this moment, several dark clouds struck down countless lightning bolts, heading straight for Yun Chujio. Goei Batsao almost subconsciously turned to its maximum and supported Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio stopped in her tracks and continued to run forward. Goei Batsao was struck by the heavenly lightning and instantly dissipated. This fellow sighed in his heart. It was too weak now. It was only slightly stronger than Buttface. Just as he was thinking, Yun Chujio released him again. Then he was instantly struck and dissipated. After releasing Goei Batsao frequently, Yun Chujio's spiritual power was quickly depleted, and there was still a long way to go before she reached the cliff. She smiled bitterly in her heart. She was afraid that she would not be able to survive today. She did not know what secret was hidden in the cliff that made Tiandao so angry. Even when she cursed Tiandao previously, it did not reach such a terrifying level. Rumble! 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 Several bolts of lightning struck down once again. At that instant, the light illuminated the entire sky. Yun Chujio could even faintly see the dark clouds trembling with pride. She could not help but reveal a bitter smile. Previously, she had thought that Wu Yun was nothing special. Which time had she not been frightened by her and fled? Only now did she understand that she was wrong. She was extremely wrong. Previously, it was just that Tiandao did not take her seriously. Now that she had taken her seriously, she finally realized how insignificant she was. In essence, she was no different from those demonic beasts. She was just an ant that was waiting to be slaughtered. However, even so, Tiandao did not have the right to kill her. As long as there was a glimmer of hope, she had to survive. Thinking of this, she activated all the defensive spirit tools on her body and gritted her teeth as she continued to run towards the cliff. However, with just one strike, all the spirit tools were reduced to dust. Under the might of the heavens, those spirit tools could not withstand a single strike. Another wave of heavenly lightning struck down. Yun Chujio could not avoid it and was struck squarely. A huge pit instantly appeared on the ground. Before Yun Chujio could jump out of the pit, another wave of heavenly lightning struck down. Yun Chujio gritted her teeth and summoned little Wu Yun. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 5344 was so painful that Xiao Mogu even forgot about it. Yun Chujio flew out of the deep pit on a small dark cloud and headed straight for the cliff. Wu Yun was her last trump card. If it wasn't a last resort, she didn't want to use it. But now, she could only place her hopes on Wu Yun. Wu Yun faced the lightning and brought Yun Chujio along as they quickly floated towards the cliff. When those Wu Yun saw little Wu Yun, the lightning struck down even more violently. In their eyes, little Wu Yun was a disgrace to the Wu Yun world, a traitor to the Wu Yun world. She had actually become a human's personal pet. She was simply unworthy of being a Yun. Little Wu Yun was still in her infancy stage. How could she be a match for those big Wu Yun? In an instant, she was on the verge of collapsing. If she did not rely on the ruthlessness in her heart to hold on, she would have long been struck to sleep. Even though little Wu Yun tried her best, she was still unable to send Yun Chujio to the cliff. With her last bit of strength, she landed on the ground. Yun Chujio put away the little Wu Yun with reddened eyes and continued to run forward. Boom, boom, boom. Heavenly lightning struck Yun Chujio's body continuously. She was covered in blood as she lay at the bottom of the pit. Other than her eyes, she could not even move any other parts of her body. Guai Chao was secreting juice to repair Yun Chujio's body while cursing in his heart. Let's see, wouldn't it still have to rely on its dog tail in the end? Without it, this stupid girl would have died countless times. Only it had a large amount of Go Weiba and did not care about the past. This stupid girl really did not know how to be grateful. Yun Chujio could no longer feel the bone-piercing pain because she was already numb from the pain. She looked at the heavenly lightning that kept striking down and her heart was filled with unwillingness. Was she going to die just like that? What did she do wrong for Tiandao to want to kill her? Heavenly lightning spirit root? It was really laughable. This was not something that she could decide. Since there was a heavenly lightning spirit root in this world, there was a reason for it to exist. Was it because of the thing in the cliff? That thing was not something that she had built, and it had nothing to do with her. If Tiandao had the ability, why didn't he destroy that thing? Instead, he took it out on himself? He was really picking on the weak. Yun Chujio suddenly had a thought and used her spiritual sense to say to Guai Chao, Tiandao wants to kill me, but I think it should be aimed at my primordial spirit. If you immediately seize control of the body, you might be able to escape this calamity. Goei Batsao rejected this suggestion from the bottom of his heart. Other things aside, this wretched girl's body could not be any more miserable. If it wanted to possess her body, it would feel the same. How painful would that be? However, it also knew that this might be the only way to escape, so it could only bite the bullet and seize control of Yun Chujia's body. The moment it possessed her, Goebatsao was in so much pain that it even forgot about Xiao Mogu. It was too fucking painful. How did this wretched girl endure it? Goebatsao even suspected that Yun Chujio was deliberately messing with it. It was so painful that it even suspected that the grass was growing. This fellow thought that if the heavenly lightning continued to strike down, it would return the control of its body to that stupid girl no matter what. This was simply too unbearable. However, contrary to Goebakeo's expectations, the heavenly lightning really did not strike down again. Could this trick really work? Goebatsao simply closed its eyes and adjusted its aura to the lowest level, pretending to be dead. Wu Yun in the sky seemed to be a little suspicious. Although he did not continue to strike the heavenly lightning, it did not disperse. For a moment, both sides were in a stalemate. Goebatsao used this time to quickly repair Yun Chujia's bloody body. At the same time, she did not forget to provoke the other two holdouts in her dantian. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 53-45 Goebatsao felt that the black bead and the great void mirror could not be compared to it. It was as if they had eaten their fill for nothing. The great void mirror and the black bead turned a blind eye to its provocation. They did not have the slightest reaction. Goebatsao could not help but mutter in a low voice, "Stupid girl, did you see that? Among your spiritual pets, I am the most reliable one. The rest of them have eaten their fill for nothing." Yun Chujio almost died from anger. "You idiot! Shut up." Before Yun Chujio could finish her sentence, several bolts of lightning struck down. Goebatsao, if time could be reversed, it would definitely be a competent mute. This fellow grimaced in pain and said, "Anyway, it's already exposed. It's better for you to do it." Before Yun Chujio could react, Goebatsao returned the control of its body to her. Yun Chujio wished that she could strangle the Goebatsao to death. Now that she had been exposed, the trick of deceiving the world was useless. How was she going to reach the cliff? Another few waves of heavenly lightning struck down. Yun Chujio could not even move her eyes. She felt that she was going to die this time. At this moment, the Goebatsao in her dantian suddenly seized control of Yun Chujio's body. Yun Chujio was stunned. She used her spiritual sense to ask, "Goebatsao, what do you want to do?" Goebatsao quickly repaired Yun Chujio's body with its juice. Only then did it manage to say one word, "Whip." After saying that, Goebatsao returned the control of her body to Yun Chujio again. Yun Chujio was stunned at first, then she understood Goebakeo's meaning. That's right. She could release Goebatsao and let it send her flying. Although the fall might be terrible, no matter how terrible it was still better than being struck to death by lightning. However, she had little spiritual power left, so she had to calculate the angle well. Otherwise, she would really die. Yun Chujio quickly thought of the topographic map of Mount Meru and chose the shortest path before releasing Goebatsao. The first thing the Goebatsao had to do was to pull Yun Chujio to the ground first and then send her flying. Unfortunately, the Goebatsao had just pulled Yun Chujio to the ground when it dissipated. Yun Chujio had no choice but to use all her strength to release the Goebatsao again. She used her spiritual sense to say, "Goebatsao, don't you know how to save a small amount of money?" The Goebatsao was instantly delighted. That's right, how could it forget this skill? It could completely create the illusion of dispersing to deceive those silly clouds. This way, it could accumulate its strength and send the smelly girl to the cliff. Yun Chujio released Goebatsao again. Goebatsao used all its strength to send Yun Chujio flying with its leaves. Then, before the heavenly lightning struck, it created the illusion of dispersing. Wu Yun in the sky looked at Hei Xinjiu, who was sent flying by its spiritual beast, and was somewhat dumbfounded. What was going on? Internal strife? Yun Chujio calculated the time when she was about to land and released the Goebatsao again. The Goebatsao waved its leaves and sent her flying again. In this way, not only would she save time, but she could also avoid the tragic result of Hei Shinjio falling to her death. Wu Yun finally regained his senses and slashed at Hei Shinjio. However, Hei Shinjio, who was sent flying, flew very quickly. The heavenly lightning could not strike her accurately, and she miraculously survived to the bottom of the cliff. Yun Chujio felt complicated when she saw the hole that she had made with her kitchen knife. However, it was not the time to think about it now. She gritted her teeth and crawled to the bottom of the hole. She thought that the hole had formed a barrier. Even if the heavenly lightning could turn, it would consume a large part of the power of the lightning. She should be able to catch her breath for a moment. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 5346 was actually. Yun Chujio was pleasantly surprised to find that the heavenly lightning had actually stopped. Yun Chujio was puzzled. Could it be that the heavenly lightning did not dare to strike this cliff? Did it strike Mount Meru just to prevent humans from approaching this place? This fellow's eyes immediately lit up. It was true. After thinking about it carefully, the heavenly lightning that she had encountered earlier did not strike in this direction. How stupid was she? If she had thought of this earlier, why would she be struck into such a miserable state? However, it was not too late to think about it now. Once her body recovered, she would deal with this group of Wu Yun. Yun Chujio took out a handful of pills and swallowed them. After recovering some strength, she took out a roasted chicken and started to eat it. Only after filling her stomach would she have the strength to take revenge. Gebatsao also waved its grass leaves and flew over at this moment. When it saw that Yun Chujio was actually eating chicken, it could not help but shake its leaves. This smelly girl's heart was really big. Even at this time, she still did not forget to eat. After Yun Chujio finished eating and drinking, the injuries on her body were almost healed by Goeibatsao. She sighed in her heart. Although this Goeibatsao was sometimes unreliable, it was still very useful. In the future, she should not scold it too much. Yun Chujio rested for a while and took out her kitchen knife to continue cutting the cliff. This fellow gritted his teeth as he thought, I want to see what made Tian Dao so angry. Yun Chujio's actions clearly angered the dark clouds. The thunder rumbled non-stop, but they all struck the side of the cliff and did not land on the cliff. Yun Chujio had another guess in her heart. It was probably not that Wu Yun did not dare to cut the cliff, but that the cliff was set up with a formation so that the thunder could not strike it. With this understanding, Hei Xinjia's hacking became more and more joyful. There must be a treasure hidden in this cliff. Ha, I'm rich. It was not in vain for me to be hacked so miserably. This fellow kept hacking and hacking. She did not know what mechanism he had accidentally touched. A white light flashed in front of her eyes. When she opened her eyes again, she was already in a cave. Goeibatsao, who was left on the spot, have you forgotten your little cutie again? Yun Chujio looked around and found that the cave was ordinary. There was only a yellowed sheepskin scroll on the stone platform in front of her. Yun Chujio could not help but feel a little disappointed. After all the trouble, there was only such a thing hidden inside? However, this fellow thought about it again. Perhaps it was a treasure map or something like that, and his mood became a little better. She did not dare to rashly take the sheepskin scroll. Instead, she released Goeibatsao again and asked it to help her bring the sheepskin scroll over. Goeibatsao really wanted to ignore her, but it was also curious about what was written on the sheepskin scroll, so it jumped over, wrapped the sheepskin scroll with its leaves, and handed it to Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio saw that there was nothing unusual, so she took the sheepskin scroll. However, she found that the sheepskin scroll was only half finished, and the back part had been cut off with a sharp weapon. The sheepskin scroll was written in ancient characters, so she had to let Dog 2 out and let it read it to her. Buttface was feeling guilty about what had happened before. Now that he had the chance to make up for it, he naturally cherished it. He ignored Goeibakeo's provocation and read it seriously. This is a secret of the celestial race. It is of great importance and is kept a secret. If it were to appear in the world, our celestial race would definitely suffer a huge loss. I hope that the fated people can lend a hand to our descendants. Yun Chujio was stunned. This sheepskin scroll was actually a secret of the God clan. What kind of great secret was it that made it sound so solemn? Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 5347, The Deity and Demon Race. Buttface continued to read. In the ancient Mesozoic era, the continent was divided into two. The ruler was the deity and demon race. The deity and demon race were actually the same ancestors. Yunchujio, holy shit! Did it have to be so exciting? The deity and demon race, these two sworn enemies, were the same ancestors? Wait, what kind of relationship did the deity and demon race have with the deity and demon temple? She suppressed the astonishment in her heart and listened to Buttface continue reading. The general meaning was that the two continents had been occupied by the two families of the celestial race and the demon race. As the conflict became deeper and deeper, the two continents finally had a war. It was because of that war that the two continents fell apart and became the 3,000 continents today. What happened after that? Yun Chujio asked urgently. Buttface waved the sheepskin scroll in his hand. There's nothing after that. It was broken by someone. Yun Chujio was extremely aggrieved. Just when she was engrossed in listening, he told her that there was nothing after that. However, even the information she had obtained now was enough to shock her. No wonder Emperor Shin said that there was a big secret hidden in the ancient Mesozoic era. It was really too sensational. The celestial race and the demon race were actually the same ancestor. They even fought foolishly for tens of thousands of years. Weren't they full of themselves? Also, how freakishly strong were the celestial and demon race back then? They actually tore the two continents apart and turned them into 3,000 continents? Wasn't this destructive power too terrifying? Most importantly, what relationship did the celestial and demon race have with the celestial and demon race? If the master of the god-demon temple was the god-demon race, oh my god, that would be too terrifying. Why did Tiandao stop the sheepskin scroll from appearing? What was it afraid of? Also, what was recorded in the second half of the sheepskin scroll? And who would have it? The more Yun Chujio thought about it, the more she felt a headache. She couldn't figure it out for a long time. Goei Batsao, who was at the side, wasn't interested in these things. This fellow hooked the leaves of the grass at Buttface. It was obvious that he wanted to teach Buttface a lesson. Buttface's eyes flashed. It was not strong enough to be fooled. Yun Chujio quickly understood. Although she could not understand it now, the day would come when the clouds would rise again. There was no need to dwell on it. She thought for a while and asked Goei Batsao to put the sheepskin scroll back into the distance. This thing would attract the wrath of Tiandao. It was better to stay here. Moreover, with this thing in Mount Meru, she would have an endless supply of heavenly lightning to absorb. Only a fool would kill the chicken to get the egg. However, how could she leave this place? This fellow wandered around for a long time but still could not find a way to leave. After thinking for a moment, he bowed respectfully to the stone platform. Since I have seen this sheepskin scroll, I will definitely help the celestial race to take revenge. Please send me out of here. She was also desperate. Who would have thought that a white light would flash before her eyes and she would appear at her original location? How could this work? However, no matter what, she was finally out. As for the celestial enemies, they were most likely related to the divine devil hall. When the time came, she would help the celestials take revenge. However, what about the Wu Yun outside? Once she left the cliff, she would be struck by lightning again. Wu Yun rolled her eyes and arrived outside the cliff. She used the sticky threads to climb up. The dark clouds couldn't do anything. Even if they were the heavenly lightning that was aimed at Yun Chujio, they would eventually deviate and fall somewhere else. Yun Chujio quickly climbed to the highest point of the cliff. A sinister smile appeared on her face. She began to secretly stab and bleed. She had suffered a great deal today. She would be letting herself down if she didn't get more cloud wings. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 5348. The fairy. After Yun Chujio poured enough blood, she realized that the dark clouds were quite far away from her, and the little Wu Yun had gone into hibernation. How could she get the blood onto the dark clouds? This guy blinked his eyes, then put one hand on his waist and pointed at the dark clouds in the sky and shouted, "Hey, you useless snacks! Come and chop me! You blind idiots! Don't you know that I'm a fairy? You want to chop me to death? You're really courting death. Come on, chop me if you can. A bunch of cowards. If you don't chop me to death today, you'll be a bunch of bastards." Wu Yun was obviously very angry, especially some of the newbies. They wished that they could chop Hei Xinjiu to death right away. Wasn't this brat relying on that cliff? If it wasn't for that cliff, she would have been killed by it long ago. Yun Chujio provoked them and said, "Tsk, do you think I'm relying on this cliff? Even without this cliff, I'm not afraid of you. I'll go down now and see who dares to kill me." When the dark clouds heard that, they immediately gathered towards Yun Chujio, ready to strike her to death with one strike. Yun Chujio climbed down while muttering softly, "What a bunch of idiots! They're floating so high, it'll be weird if they can strike me." Wu Yun, who had suffered a loss before, instantly came to a realization. Oh no, this disaster was most likely going to cause trouble again. However, they did not tell this guess to the other rookie clouds. The reason was very simple. Why were they tricked by this scourge while the other clouds were not tricked? This was not fair. Hence, the few scheming clouds secretly drifted far away, gloating over their misfortune as they prepared to watch the show. The pitiful rookie clouds did not know what was going on. After hearing Yun Chujius muttering to herself, they almost laughed out loud. This scourge was really stupid. She actually said what was on her mind. Wasn't she showing them the way? Therefore, they all descended to the ground, preparing to kill Yun Chujio when she landed. Yun Chujio saw that those silly clouds were getting closer and closer to the ground. Her little heart was beating nonstop. A Yun-E was going to be in her hands again. Yun Chujio thought as she climbed down the cliff and took a few steps forward. When the dark clouds saw that Yun Chujio had really left the cliff, they were so excited that they were trembling. Hack her to death. At this moment, Yun Chujio took out her cloud fishing rod and started to swing it around. There was a round ball on the hook, which contained Yun Chujio's blood. Yun Chujio had specially asked the Qing family to help her build it, so that it could be used to fish for Yun-E. Yun Chujio swung the ball hard, and several holes appeared on the ball. The blood in the ball splashed everywhere, and the distance was very far. At the same time, Yun Chujio took a few steps back and returned to the safe zone. However, Wu Yun was unlucky. All the Yun wings that were splashed by Yun Chujio's blood flew towards Hei Xinjiu spontaneously, without any intention of missing their old master. Those new Wu Yun were completely dumbfounded. What happened? Who were they? Where were they? What were they doing? Yun Chujio watched as the Yun wings flew over one by one, and the cloud fishing rod swayed even more happily. However, the blood in the ball was quickly depleted. This fellow was very regretful. If she had known that these Wu Yun were so stupid, she would have endured the pain and bled more. What a mistake! Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 5349 had never suffered such grievance at this moment. The Wu Yun were both afraid and angry. Their hard-earned cloud wings had been taken away by that scourge just like that. The thing that puzzled them the most was why would the cloud wings acknowledge her as their master when her blood splashed onto the cloud wings? However, seeing that there was no more blood in the ball, the Wu Yun felt a little more at ease. Moreover, they realized that if they had not fallen into the trap and lowered their altitude, the scourge would not have been able to abduct their wings. Therefore Wu Yun rose higher and higher. They were determined. They did not believe that the scourge would hide in the cliff for the rest of her life. If they did not kill her this time, they would not go back. Hei Xinjiu quickly discovered the plans of the Wu Yun. This fellow was not worried, but happy instead. She could not wait for these Wu Yun to guard here. If that was the case, wouldn't she have an inexhaustible power of lightning? She took this opportunity to improve her cultivation. Although a rapid increase in cultivation might cause her foundation to be unstable, it was a rare opportunity that could not be missed. At most, she would think of ways to stabilize her cultivation later. Thus, this fellow set up camp on the cliff. Anyway, This fellow had a lot of food in his storage ring. He did not need to worry about food and drink. This fellow's daily routine was to cultivate, eat, and sleep. When he had nothing to do, he would still anger those Wu Yun. It was simply wonderful. When the lightning power in her body was exhausted, she would go out to absorb some lightning power and continue cultivating. In the blink of an eye, 2 months had passed. The dark clouds in the sky were so angry that they were about to die. They felt that if they continued to stay here, that wretched girl might even ascend. They were too angry with the clouds. They had never been wronged like this before. Woo, this scourge was simply not human. She was just a pervert. In the end, the dark clouds poured down a torrential rain and floated away with silent wails. Yun Chujio waved her claws and shouted with a smile, "Hey, don't go. Just stay for a few more days." Wu Yun was so angry that she was trembling. "Play my ass. If you continue to play, it'll make you, a scourge, soar into the sky." After the rain stopped, Yun Chujio tidied up for a while and then slowly walked out of the cliff. Mount Meru had been struck by lightning for the past few days and had already been turned into the Valley of Meru. The land was charred black and there were no living beings. There was not even a single blade of wild grass. It was exceptionally desolate. However, Yun Chujio believed that it would not be long before this place regained its vitality. This was the tenacity of life. Even if the wind blew and the rain hit, even if one was suffering, they would not lose their instinct to survive. Yun Chujio gave herself a bowl of chicken soup for the soul and slowly walked out of the Valley of Meru. Although Wu Yun had covered thousands of miles in the beginning, they had all gathered near the Sumeru mountain. The people in the surrounding cities had already returned to their own cities a few days ago, but they were still trembling with fear. Only when the heavy rain stopped did everyone feel more at ease. The disaster had finally passed. They did not know what had happened on the Sumeru mountain to cause such a huge disaster. Yun Chujio entered the imperial city and went straight to the ancestral residence. "Old ancestor, embark." When the Lan family's old ancestor saw this fellow, he wished he could strangle her to death. Even if he used his heel to think, he knew that she was the one who had caused this calamity. Of course, the Lan family's old ancestor would not admit it. He was actually a little worried that she would play with his life. The ancestor was about to teach her a lesson, but in the next moment, he was stunned on the spot. Peak level 6 of spirit destruction? In 3 months, you actually broke through from peak level 8 to peak level 6 of spirit destruction? Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 5350. The things that Yun Chujio had told him. Hearing the words of the Lan family's patriarch, Yun Chujio bared her little white teeth. If Wu Yun hadn't left because of homesickness, I would have been able to advance 2 levels. What a pity. The Lan family's patriarch. He had lived for nearly 1,000 years and only managed to cultivate to the 8th level of the spirit extinguisher level. However, this troublemaker had broken through to the peak of the 6th level of the spirit extinguisher level in 2 months. It was simply infuriating. The patriarch of the Lan family was in an extremely complicated mood. For a moment, he did not even have the mood to teach Hei Shinjio a lesson. He waved his hand and said, "You can go back first. Come back another day." Yun Chujio did not say anything else and left obediently. After Yun Chujio left, the masked old man walked out of the secret door behind the bookshelf stiffly. He had also heard Yun Chujio's words. At this moment, his mood was also very complicated. The Heavenly Thunder Spirit Root was indeed worthy of being called the Heavenly Thunder Spirit Root. The speed of this breakthrough was really too astonishing. The two of them were silent for a long time before the old man said, "Master, Yun Chujio's talent is better than what we expected. This is more beneficial to our plan. When do you plan to tell her the truth?" The Lan family's ancestor closed his eyes and was silent for a moment. "No rush, wait a little longer. How is Luochen?" Young Master Luochen's cultivation has reached the peak of the 7th level of the spirit extinguisher realm, but his realm is still not very stable, the old man said. He could not help but sigh in his heart. All of them were freaks. As long as there was an opportunity, This breakthrough would be as easy as eating. The ancestor of the Lan family knocked on the table with his finger. After his realm is stable, let him come back. Yes. After Hei Shinjio left the Lan family's ancestral house, she did not go back to the 3 houses of the Lan family. Instead, she went to the courtyard where Leng Yun and the others were stationed. When Leng Yun saw Yun Chujio, he collapsed on the ground with a thud. Oh my God! It had only been 3 months since they last saw each other. How could their master's cultivation level rise so fast? Although his cultivation level was lower than Yun Chujio's and he did not know what Yun Chujio's cultivation level was at the moment, he could feel that his abnormal master's cultivation level had improved a lot compared to the past. Yun Chujio could not help but laugh when she saw his appearance. She said with a chuckle, "How is the task I asked you to do?" Leng Yun quickly got up and said, "Everything is going smoothly." Now, whether it is the Bitter Zen sect or the Qi family, they are constantly at odds with the Divine Devil Hall. Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes. The task she had arranged for Leng Yun and the others to do previously was to use the name of the Divine Devil Hall to cause trouble everywhere. Although it was just a trivial matter, it was fermented bit by bit, it was enough to cause friction between them. When their conflict could not be reconciled, it would be the best time for the various major powers to join forces to attack the Divine Devil Hall. Yun Chujio ordered Leng Yun and the others to fan the flames appropriately without exposing their identities and to guide the public opinion. Only then did they return to the 3rd branch of the Lan family. The moment she entered the door of the 3rd branch, she was invited to Lan Dimeo's study. Lan Dimeo had also guessed that the heavenly thunder on Mount Meru was related to Yun Chujio. However, now that Yun Chujio was directly listening to the arrangements of the Lan family's ancestor, he could not interfere, so he rarely interfered with Yun Chujio's matters. However, he still had to give her a good beating. Otherwise, how would he, his great-uncle, have any face? Therefore, Lan Dimeo's face was stern. He was prepared to give Yun Chujio a scolding the moment she entered. However, when he realized that he could not see through Yun Chujio's cultivation, he was immediately confused. "Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much." Chapter 53-51. Lan Dimeo felt that he was hallucinating. Otherwise, how could he not see through the cultivation of this troublemaker? Or else, the ancestor had given her some treasure to hide her cultivation? He asked curiously, "Little Gio, what is your cultivation now?" "Sigh, uncle, you also know that my aptitude is not good and my talent is average, so my cultivation speed is really too slow. Right now, I am only at the peak of the 6th level of Spirit Extinguisher. Isn't it a little low?" Yun Chujio said with a smile. Lan Dimeo, aptitude isn't good? Talent is average? Cultivation speed is too slow? Cultivation is a little low? He wanted to beat someone up. He wanted to strangle this troublemaker who was taking advantage of him. Lan Dimeo felt that his entire person was in bad shape. This troublemaker actually broke through to the peak of level 6 of Spirit Extinguisher. He was only at the peak of level 5 of Spirit Extinguisher. Lan Dimeo was the same as the Lan family's ancestor, and at this moment, he didn't want to speak. Thus, he said a few words perfunctorily and sent Yun Chujio away. As for the words that he was prepared to reprimand, what was there to say? If he could break through so many times in a row, it wouldn't matter even if he broke through the heavens. Yun Chujio thought of the stiff expressions of the Lan family's ancestor and Lan Dimeo and couldn't help but laugh. As expected, the strong were respected. It seemed that cultivating properly was the right path. However, the speed of her improvement this time was a little fast. Her foundation wasn't very stable, so she couldn't break through rashly in the near future. Therefore, for the next period of time, Yun Chujio didn't go out much. She had been cultivating in the courtyard. The battle between Buttface, Buddha's Candle, and Goei Bikeo's #1 spiritual pet was also going on like wildfire. There would be a few fights every day. Yun Chujio couldn't be bothered with them. She would only scold them when things got out of hand. Only with competition would there be progress. Moreover, she was happy to watch the show. Those dumb cuties were also watching the show. They felt that these three were really idle. Xiao Heinio, on the other hand, was calm and composed. He sneered in his heart. No matter how hard you fought, you wouldn't be able to compete with my position in the little girl's heart. You three idiots. That night, He Xinjiu was watching Buttface and the others fighting over the pet. Di Baiming's clear voice came from outside the door. Xiao Jiu opened the door. Yun Chujiu was delighted. The gigolo was here. This guy thought to himself, this gigolo had finally made some progress under her training. He wouldn't smash the door. She was happy, but Gowei Batsao trembled. That jinx won't settle the score later, right? The more she thought about it, the more afraid she became. Therefore, when Di Baiming came in, she saw a grass kneeling on the ground. Di Baiming glanced at her and directly waved his palm to disperse her. Gowei Batsao, fine. You're ruthless. You'll never be able to sleep with that stinky girl in your life. Seeing Gowei Batsao dissipate, Buttface gloated and said obsequiously, Your Excellency, you're here? I haven't seen you for a few days, and you're becoming more and more brilliant. Get out. Okay, I will get out now. Buttface scrambled out of the bedroom. What a joke. That Gowei Batsao was only a spiritual beast. It didn't matter if it dissipated, but if it did, it would really dissipate. Buddha's candle saw that the situation was not good and returned to Yun Chujia's left palm. Di Baiming looked at his little wife and felt very stifled. There was Guai Chao, the great void mirror, and the black bead in his dantian. There was Buddha's candle in his left hand and a small flame in his right hand. There were also a few drifters hidden between his brows, not to mention the bunch of idiots in the spiritual beast pouch. Was this his wife or the wives of these idiots? Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 53-52, The Great Firmament Festival. Di Baiming felt frustrated but also a little proud. Although these idiots were a little stupid, they were not ordinary things. His little wife was able to contract them, which meant that his little wife was very powerful. Di Baiming did not know about the previous lightning tribulation. When he found out, he had already received Yun Chujia's voice transmission talisman, so he was not in a hurry to come over. However, it was a lie to say that he was not worried. Now that Yun Chujia was not only fine, but her cultivation had also increased by a lot, he was finally relieved. Why are you so angry? Who provoked you? Yun Chujio asked in a blaming tone. She hugged Di Baiming's neck, her little feet clamped on his legs, and all the weight of her body was on him. Di Baiming's body froze. He did not answer her. Instead, he lowered his head and kissed her pouting lips. It was only when Yun Chujio was out of breath that Di Baiming let go of her. The resentment in his heart towards Gowei Batsao was extremely strong. He should not have dispersed it just now. He should have let it kneel on the ground to atone for its sins. Di Baiming carried Yun Chujio and placed her on the bed. He laid beside her and felt that this moment of silence was so beautiful. There was no endless pursuit, no painstaking planning, and no pain that he missed but could not see. It was great. Prince Charming, you haven't answered my question just now. Why do I feel that you are a little angry today? Yun Chujio asked. Di Baiming naturally would not say that he was wrong or that he was jealous of a few idiots. He said calmly, I found some news, so I'm a little impatient. What news? Yun Chujio curiously widened her eyes. The Divine Devil Hall has been organizing the Great Firmament Gathering recently. They want to invite all the forces in the Great Firmament continent to attend. It must be a big conspiracy. Great Firmament Gathering? Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes. The Divine Devil Hall was trying to stir up trouble. Unlike the situation in other continents, the Divine Devil Hall was hidden in the dark and everyone wanted to beat them up. In the Great Firmament continent, the Divine Devil Hall was a force that could see the light, and their reputation was not too bad. Therefore, if the Divine Devil Hall could find a gimmick to attract people, this heavy cloud festival would definitely attract many people to attend. Oh right, Male God, I didn't tell you about Mount Meru in detail in the voice transmission talisman. I found a huge secret in it. Yun Chujio told him the things recorded in the sheepskin scroll and then said, "Male god, do you think the Divine Devil Hall and the Divine Devil Race are related?" Di Baiming was also very surprised. The Divine Devil Race and the Divine Devil Race were both descendants of the Divine Devil Race? He thought for a moment and said, regardless of whether there is a connection or not, the Divine Devil Hall Master's strength will be quite terrifying. In the future, you must be more careful and not be careless. Yun Chujio nodded and said curiously, "What do you think is recorded in the second half of the sheepskin scroll? I always feel that the secrets contained in it are even more shocking than the first half." Di Baiming naturally did not know what was recorded in the second half of the scroll, but he felt a little uneasy. Why did little Jiao always encounter some strange things? Why did little Jiao's blood contract with Yun? He recalled Qi Ying's words that the two of them were enemies in their previous lives, and he could not help but tighten his arms around Yun Chujio. No matter what would happen, he would not separate from little Jiao, and no one could separate them. Yun Chujio was so smart. Seeing Di Baiming's expression and behavior, he could guess what he was thinking. He lightly pecked on the corner of his mouth and said, "No matter what will happen in the future, we will never separate. If you dare to betray me, I will castrate you." A certain someone's face was stiff, and he subconsciously tightened his legs. "Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much." Chapter 53:53. Although a certain someone felt that his wife was too fierce, he also felt that she was so cute and playful. He felt that there was an 80% chance that his brain was damaged. However, when he saw such a fierce Hei Shinjio, the uneasiness in his heart disappeared because he believed that no matter what happened, his little wife would never give up on him. It was really good. He could not help but kiss Hei Shinjio again. Hei Shinjio pouted and complained, "You only know how to take advantage of me. I'm talking business with you." Business? He thought. Having sex was the most important business. Damn go wei batsa. Suppressing the urge to tear Hei Shinjio apart and eat her up, he said, "I'm here to remind you not to attend the Chongshao Gala." He knew Hei Xinjia's personality too well. She would always stir up trouble whenever she was free. It would be weird if she did not go to such a lively event like the Great Firmament Territory Assembly. Therefore, as soon as she got the news, she rushed to stop her. Hei Shinjio rolled her eyes. "My idol, I have to go to the Great Firmament Territory Assembly." Before Di Baiming could speak, she continued, "Firstly, I'm not the same as I was in the past. Although my cultivation is not the best, it's not bad either. I can protect myself. Secondly, I've already provoked the Bitter Zen sect and the Qi family to have some small conflicts with the Divine Devil Hall. If I continue to stir up trouble at the Grand Firmament Gathering, I might be able to stir up the situation even more. Thirdly, I might be able to gain something from seeing the Divine Devil Hall's lair in the Great Firmament Continent. After all, our battle with the Divine Devil Hall has just begun. Only by knowing ourselves and our enemies can we survive 100 battles. Moreover, don't we still have you? I'm in the open while you're in the dark. This way, the Divine Devil Hall will be able to take care of one thing and lose the other. It will be advantageous for us to find a suitable opportunity to strike." Even though Yun Chujio was telling the truth, Di Baiming still did not relent. No matter what, he would not allow her to participate in the Chongshao Convention. This was because the Chongshao Convention was clearly a conspiracy. How could he bear to let her take the risk? However, in the end, a certain someone was sobbed by Hei Shinjio. Sigh. A certain someone sighed. He just couldn't bear to see her tears. Although he knew that he shouldn't agree, he still couldn't bear to let her continue crying. Seeing that a certain someone had relented, Hei Shinjio immediately broke into a smile. "Prince Charming, don't worry. Only Old Fox and Lan Dimeo know that I broke through to the peak of level 6 of the Spirit Extinguisher realm. Even Leng Yun and the others don't know what my cultivation is. When the time comes, I'll adjust my cultivation to the 2nd level of Spirit Extinguisher. I'll pretend to be a pig to eat a tiger and play with those dregs to death." Di Baiming looked at her eyes that were as bright as the stars and felt his heart beat rapidly. He wished that he could hide the person in front of him and not let anyone see him, so that he wouldn't be coveted by others. However, there was still the great worry of the divine devil hall and many unknown dangers. Both he and little Gio couldn't stop moving forward. Although it was already very late, the two of them could not bear to go to sleep. This was because they did not have much time to spend together. They did not want to waste even a quarter of an hour. In the end, it was only after Di Biming promised to leave 2 days later that Yun Chujio finally fell asleep in his arms. Due to Di Biming's presence, Buttface and the rest were extremely obedient. They were afraid that if Sha Xing was unhappy, he would kill them. Yun Chujio looked at their cowardly expressions and said sourly, "Male god, although you are Xing Zun, I am the ghost ancestor and demon ancestor, right? Why are Buttface and the others afraid of you but not of me? Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much." Chapter 53-54. When Di Biming saw her angry look, he couldn't help but smile. "I don't know why it happened either. If you want to know the reason, you can ask Buttface and the others." Yun Chujio immediately made Buttface, Goei Batsao, and Buddha's candle stand in a row and asked, "What do you think is the reason?" The three of them glanced at each other, but no one said anything. Yun Chujio was furious when she saw this. This was a blatant act of going against her. She pointed at Buttface with her finger. "You speak first." Why did she let Buttface speak first? It rolled its eyes and immediately said obsequiously, "Little fairy, it's not that I'm not afraid of you, but that I'm closer to you. In front of people close to me, I can't help but be a little presumptuous. In fact, I'm very afraid of you." Although Yun Chujio felt that it was lying, she had to say that this scheming dog was getting better at talking. Yun Chujio decided to let Dog 2 off. She looked at Buddha's candle and said, "Clown candle, speak." Buddha's candle did not have Dog 2's scheming and eloquence. It stuttered, because compared to you, my cultivation level is higher than yours, and am also more dignified than you. Yun Chujio, it pierced her heart. It was too piercing. This clown candle was saying that she was a useless snack without dignity. Very well, she would remember it. Buttface, who was standing at the side, was overjoyed. This Buddha's candle was really stupid. But it was no wonder. It was just a candle wick, so it naturally did not have so many tricks up its sleeve. Yun Chujio glared at the Buddha's candle with a gloomy face, then looked at the kneeling Goei Batsao. Goei Batsao knew that it was not favored by a certain someone, so in order to avoid the fate of being scattered again, it felt safer to kneel. When it saw that Yun Chujio asked about it, the fellow shook its leaf, indicating that it could not speak. At this time, the fellow was extremely glad that it could not speak, or else it would not get any benefits no matter what it said. Yun Chujio glared at it and released Hun Dun. Although Hun Dun had grown a layer of short fur, it was still wearing its beloved green sweater. When it heard Yun Chujio's question, its eyes that had no eyeballs flashed and said, "I don't know how old other people are, but I instinctively feel that he is very dangerous, so I don't dare to provoke him." Hun Dun originally wanted to say Lao Zi, but when he saw a certain deity's cold gaze, he forcefully swallowed his words. Yun Chujio felt that Hun Dun's answer was more reliable. Demonic beasts were naturally sensitive to danger. In that case, other than the identity of Xing Zun, the pretty boy must have other identities. What exactly was it? Yun Chujio rewarded Hun Dun with an exquisite comb. Then she did not bother with these silly cuties, but started talking to Di Biming. Hun Dun took the hairbrush and happily combed his remaining long hair. He felt that he was very beautiful. Goei Batsao, Buttface and Buddha's candle were instantly unhappy when they saw Hun Dun's smug look. A fool who treated a cuckold as his treasure actually wanted to compete with them for his pet? He was really courting death. Hence, for the first time, the three of them worked together to take care of Hun Dun. For a moment, the courtyard was in chaos. Due to the loud noise, a certain lord could not hear He Xinjia's words clearly. His face immediately darkened. "Shut up." Immediately, the four of them were as quiet as chickens. Goei Batsao even knelt on the ground. It was never wrong to have a good attitude. Yun Chujio could not help but feel a little frustrated. Was this her spiritual pet or the spiritual pet of the gigolo? Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 53-55 Spiritual pets were used for battle. Biming glanced at them and summoned the little yellow dragon. Then he said to Yunchujio, your contract with them is not for fun. It's for battle. You can't let them have too much control. The little yellow dragon's cultivation is higher than theirs because I'm more strict with them. The little yellow dragon looked at the four on the ground with an arrogant expression, but it felt extremely bitter in its heart. If it had known that it was following a cold-blooded pervert, it would have acknowledged this little girl as its master no matter what. Even if it acknowledged Shui Wuji, it would still be stronger than the pervert in front of it. Why did its cultivation level increase so quickly? That was because it would have died tens of thousands of times if it hadn't increased its cultivation level. This fiend really did not care about its life and death. It directly threw it into a group of demonic beasts and left it to fend for itself. If it was not for its tough skin and thick flesh, it would have died long ago. When Yunchujio saw that the little yellow dragon's cultivation was actually about the same as hers, she immediately looked at the four on the ground and the group of people in the spirit beast pouch that were not pleasing to the eye. The pretty boy was right. She was too soft-hearted. She was too protective. That was why these people were so weak. She had to think of a way to train them. Buttface blinked his dog eyes and felt that he had to say something. Otherwise, he was afraid that his life would be worse than death for the rest of his life. That little fairy, there's some misunderstanding here. The Divine Dragon Clan's combat strength is already stronger than other demon beasts. Moreover, the venerable spirit beast is an ice dragon. This is very beneficial to the little lecherous dragon that he has contracted with. And your spiritual beast was previously that dumbass, Dehua. Now, it's the weirdo, Goeibatsao. So, it's understandable that we're so weak. Goeibatsao was immediately unhappy. You're a weak chicken, yet you still want to cheat on me? Shameless. It directly sent Buttface flying with a leaf of grass. Biming did not blame Goeibatsao this time, because he felt that Buttface needed to be whipped. He only knew how to find objective reasons, but he did not look for his own reasons. No wonder for such a long time, the majestic ancient ferocious beast had no ability other than its mouth. He thought for a moment and said, right now, the divine devil hall's energy is mostly used in planning the great firmament feast. They want send people to chase me for the time being. I'll accompany you to bring these idiots to train. Only when they become stronger will they be able to help you. I can also feel at ease. Yunchujio could not wait to spend more time with Biming, so she immediately agreed. Buttface, who was limping in, suddenly felt that there was no hope for beast life. It's over, it's definitely going to suffer. Yunchujio immediately sent a voice transmission talisman to the Lan family's patriarch, saying that she would go out for a walk with Biming for 2 days. The patriarch of the Lan family did not say anything, only telling her to be careful. Biming and Yunchujio chose to train in the Chasing Sun Forest, which was only a day's journey away from the imperial city. Even if there was danger, the two of them could still retreat back to the imperial city. Yunchujio released all the dumb cuties, saying that each of them had to kill 3 demonic beasts that met the conditions, or else they would be punished. Forget about the other dumb cuties. Buttface was worried to death. It only knew how to make noises. Was it going to kill 3 demon beasts? Buttface, why don't you beg me? Maybe I'll be kinder and help you kill 3 demon beasts. Hun Dun looked at it proudly and said, although its fur hadn't grown yet, with the green sweater, the side effects of the fruit sprinting were much better. It was not a problem to kill 3 demon beasts. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 53-56 Buttface, who received Hei Xinjia's true teachings, hearing Hun Dun's words, Buttface's eyes immediately lit up. Brother Hun Dun, I knew you were the most loyal. You are indeed a strange male with green light. Hei Xinjio burst into laughter. A strange male with green light? How could it say that? She did not expect Hun Dun to find what Buttface said very pleasing to the ear. He said proudly, you know your place. If you comb my long hair for 3 months, I will help you catch 3 demon beasts. How about it? Just as Buttface was about to agree, a cold voice sounded, "You have to finish it with your own ability. Otherwise, I will throw you into the beast lair directly." Buttface was both afraid and hateful, but he did not dare to talk back. He could only look at Hei Shinjio imploringly. Buttface was only a puppy at the moment. His big wet eyes were begging, which could easily make people's hearts soften. If it were in the past, Yun Chujio would definitely help it plead for mercy. But now, she felt that a jade that was not polished would not become a good thing, so she pretended not to see it. Seeing that Yun Chujio did not respond, Buttface could only turn back 3 times and walk into the depths of the chasing sun forest. An hour later, the silly cuties returned one after another. Yun Chujio counted and found that one was missing. It was Buttface. Could it be that this guy was in some kind of danger? Just as Yun Chujio was worried, she saw Buttface swagger back with a bunch of demonic beasts. Yun Chujio couldn't believe her eyes. How did this guy do it? Buttface looked smug and said to the demonic beasts behind him, "Hurry up and kneel to the little fairy. Otherwise, not only you, but also your kids will die." When the demonic beasts heard this, they indeed knelt on the ground and begged for mercy in fear. Yun Chujio, Di Baiming's face stiffened. Why was this scene so strangely familiar? It seemed that this Buttface had received the true teachings of his little wife. Yun Chujio was also dumbfounded. She asked with her divine sense, "Buttface, what's going on?" Buttface immediately said with his spiritual sense, "Little fairy, you know that I'm just a weak chicken. I can't hunt demon beasts at all. But I had an idea. I followed your usual practice and fooled these demon beasts." Yun Chujio, should she cry or laugh? How did you fool them? It's very simple. I scared them. Little fairy, you and your majesty brought many perverts to hunt demonic beasts. If they don't follow me and kneel down to you, not only will they lose their lives, even their little cubs will die. They believe you just because you said so? Yun Chujio asked suspiciously. I brought them to watch the white tigers hunting scene, and they were terrified. What is this called? Yes, a fox uses the tiger's power. It's also called taking advantage of the situation. Ha! Little fairy, am I very smart? Buttface was very smug. Yun Chujio, why did she feel that Buttface's style was so friendly? And so familiar? Di Baiming watched from the side. Although he didn't know what the two were talking about, he had a pretty good guess. He said calmly, "Little Gio, this test isn't difficult for them. Just throw them into the beast nest." Yun Chujio couldn't bear it, but she gritted her teeth and agreed when she thought of the little perverted dragon's cultivation. Hence, Di Baiming threw the dumb cubs into different beast nests. Yun Chujio was worried about Buttface, so she quietly hid in the dark to observe. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 53-57 had reached the peak of dog life. Di Baiming shook his head. Little Gio, you don't have to worry so much. Buttface was a ferocious beast, Cheong Chi. Although he looked weak now, he would have ways to save his life when the time came. If I don't force him, he will never improve. Although Yun Chujio knew what Di Baiming said made sense, she was still worried when she thought that Buttface was just a silly puppy. At this moment, Buttface in the beast nest was surrounded by several huge demon beasts that were drooling. Wait. I can't run away anyway, why are you so anxious? Well, I'm only so small and there are so many of you. Can you discuss who will eat me? Buttface shouted. This guy thought that the little fairy would do this when she encountered such a situation. She would sow discord and make them kill each other. The dog too wasn't like other idiots who wanted to use force to solve problems. It only needed to use its brain and its mouth. Just as it was feeling proud, it saw a demon beast that was obviously bigger than the other demon beasts open its bloody mouth and pounce at it. The other demon beasts didn't have any objections. Obviously, this demon beast was their leader. Buttface's head immediately buzzed. Why did it not follow the usual pattern when it was here? Naturally, it would not sit still and wait for death. It wanted to escape. Unfortunately, It had only taken 2 steps when it was kicked back by a demonic beast. It just happened to land at the feet of the demonic beast leader. Yun Chujio wanted to attack immediately, but Di Baiming shook his head. Seeing this, Yun Chujio could only watch nervously. Dog 2 felt that it was 80% certain that it would not survive because the demonic beast leader's bloody mouth was already within reach, and it would eat it in an instant. It did not expect that a mighty ferocious beast like it would die in such an aggrieved manner in the end. It did not want to die. If it died, wouldn't the throne of the number 1 spiritual pet be given to Goei Batsao and the others? If it died, wouldn't Peach Blossom, that infatuated female, be given to the little perverted dragon? It couldn't die. It still had to defend the throne of the number 1 spiritual pet, and it also had to be together with Peach Blossom's bunch of puppies. Buttface felt as if something inside his body was recovering. Just as the demon beast leader was about to bite him, Buttface's body suddenly enlarged, and with a swipe of his paw, he smashed the demon beast leader into a pile of meat paste. His huge wings flapped, and the other demon beasts in the nest swayed from side to side. The demonic beasts were scared out of their wits. No matter what, they couldn't associate the killing god in front of them with that weak puppy from before. What the hell was that? Buttface's huge eyeballs swept across them. Kneel down. Call me Grandpa. In fact, even without it saying anything, the demonic beasts were already so scared that their legs went limp and they laid on the ground. Forget calling them Grandpa, they were even willing to call their ancestors. However, they couldn't speak human language, so they could only make trembling cries. Dog 2 looked at the demonic beasts kneeling at its feet and felt very comfortable. It had been a long time since it had experienced such a comfortable feeling. Who else wasn't convinced? Who else dared to compete with it for the pet? Who else dared to compete with it for the female? Fuck it. Buttface felt that he was about to walk up to the peak of dog life. This fellow rolled his eyes and decided to teach that idiot Hun Dun a lesson. Therefore, he did not bother about those trembling demon beasts and waved his huge wings to seek revenge on Hun Dun. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 53-58. Kneel down and call me Sir. Yun Chujio looked at Buttface, who was far away, and was dumbfounded. Prince Charming, I am not dreaming, am I? Buttface, let's go and take a look, Di Baiming said. Although he thought that Buttface would display some instincts under danger, he did not expect it to directly turn into its original form, so he was quite surprised. The two immediately followed behind Dog 2, ready to see what it wanted to do. Dog 2 quickly found Hun Dun. Although Hun Dun had a green sweater as a protective color, it was huge and had obvious characteristics, so it was very easy to find. Hun Dun had just killed the demon beasts in the nest, so when he saw Dog 2 land in front of him, he couldn't help but be stunned. You have returned to your original form? Buttface proudly shook his huge head. You blind fool. Since you have seen it, why are you asking such an idiotic question? Hurry up and kneel down and call me master. Otherwise, I will pluck all your remaining long hair. Hun Dun was so angry that he kept twitching. However, his long hair had not grown out yet, so he was not a match for Buttface. He could only swallow his anger and say, "Don't go too far, or I will not let you go." Buttface never knew what it meant to quit when the time was right. He said smugly, "Won't let me go? Just because you're bald." "Tsk, I've been holding back some words for a long time. I've never seen a fool like you. You're still happy with your cuckold on your head. You're so stupid. Also, it's not your fault that you're ugly, but it's your fault that you came out to scare people. If I looked like you, I would have found a piece of tofu and killed myself." Hun Dun was so angry that he was about to explode. Just as he was about to open his mouth and sing to confuse Buttface, he was slapped in the face by Buttface's wings. "You still want to sing to confuse your grandpa? Your grandpa is so smart, will he let you have your way? Besides, you don't have any hair left, and your lousy singing won't be able to confuse your grandpa." Buttface said arrogantly. Hey Shinjio, who was hiding in the dark, twitched her mouth. This Buttface had fully demonstrated what it meant to be a villain getting his way. Seeing that he was no match for Buttface, Hun Dun felt that he should not be taken advantage of, so he roared in grief and indignation, "Master! Can I call you master?" Buttface felt extremely comfortable. This feeling was simply wonderful. "Come, let's hear 2 more barks," Buttface said smugly. Hun Dun was so angry that he gritted his teeth. Just as he was about to do so, he saw Buttface's body rapidly shrink as if he had lost his breath. In the blink of an eye, he had turned into an earthen yellow puppy. Hun Dun was stunned at first, then he gritted his teeth and sneered, "Buttface, how dare you threaten me? Kneel down and call me Grandpa, no, ancestor." Buttface looked at his short claws and felt a buzz in his head. Why did he change back? Where was the peak of dog life? Was it over just like that? If he knew this would happen, he wouldn't have come to take revenge on Hun Dun. Instead, he should have gone to see the female flower addict and let her see that he was 10,000 times more powerful than that little lecherous dragon. What a miscalculation! Just as Buttface was regretting his decision, Hun Dun pressed him to the ground with one paw. "Call me ancestor." Buttface had always been flexible. He bared his teeth and said obsequiously, "Buttface pays his respects to ancestor. Ancestor, your green sweater is so beautiful. It makes you look even more majestic." Hei Shinjio, who was hiding in the dark, could not bear to look at him. Buttface probably did not know what shamelessness and moral integrity were at all. He was too shameless. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.